Gaza, a small strip of land on the Mediterranean coast, known for its rich history and cultural significance. Home to over 2 million people, it is one of the most densely populated areas in the world. Today, it faces a crisis of immense proportions, a food crisis that threatens the very fabric of its society. Nearly 500,000 people are teetering on the edge of starvation. The situation is dire, with families struggling to find their next meal. The word catastrophe hangs in the air as the daily lives of Gazans are overshadowed by uncertainty and fear. What has led to this crisis? How did a once thriving community find itself in such a desperate situation? A complex web of factors, but one stands out: the blockade. This blockade has been in place for over a decade. Imposed by Israel, it has severely restricted the flow of essential goods into Gaza, creating a bottleneck that chokes the economy and stifles growth. Food, medicine, fuel. These basic necessities are in critically short supply. All are in short supply, leaving the population vulnerable and desperate. The international community watches with growing concern. Warnings have been issued, but tangible action remains elusive. The United Nations has labeled it a humanitarian catastrophe, urging immediate intervention to prevent further suffering. Families struggle to put food on the table, children are going hungry, malnutrition is rampant, hospitals are overwhelmed with cases of preventable diseases, their resources are stretched thin, and the medical staff is exhausted, fighting an uphill battle. They are fighting a losing battle against malnutrition-related illnesses. The situation is bleak, with no end in sight. The need for action is immediate. Humanitarian aid workers are doing their best, but they are overwhelmed. The world cannot stand idly by as Gaza starves. It is a call to action for governments, organizations, and individuals to come together and address this crisis before it spirals further out of control. For over a decade, Gaza has lived under the shadow of the blockade. This blockade has not only restricted the movement of people but also severely limited the flow of goods and resources into the region. Israel argues it is necessary for security reasons. They believe that without these measures, the safety of their citizens would be at risk. Hamas, the militant group controlling Gaza, is deemed a threat. Israel contends that Hamas's activities pose a significant danger not just to Israel but to regional stability. The blockade, Israel claims, prevents Hamas from acquiring weapons. By restricting the entry of materials that could be used for military purposes, Israel aims to weaken Hamas's capabilities. But the blockade's impact extends far beyond security. It has deeply affected the daily lives of ordinary Gazans, creating a humanitarian crisis. It has crippled Gaza's economy. Unemployment is rampant. Trade is stifled. Many businesses have shut down, leaving countless people without a source of income. The flow of goods is choked. Basic necessities are scarce. Prices have skyrocketed. Families struggle to afford even the most essential items. The people of Gaza are trapped in a cycle of poverty and despair. The blockade has created an environment where hope is a rare commodity. The blockade has turned Gaza into an open-air prison. Movement is heavily restricted, and the sense of confinement is palpable. International organizations have condemned the blockade. They argue that it is not just a security measure, but a form of collective punishment. They argue it amounts to collective punishment. The blockade affects every resident of Gaza, regardless of their involvement in the conflict. It is a violation of international law. Various human rights conventions and international legal bodies have criticized the blockade for its disproportionate impact on civilians. The blockade has had a devastating impact on civilian life. Access to essential services like healthcare and education has been severely hampered. It has affected every aspect of life in Gaza, from the availability of food to the quality of healthcare. Every facet of daily life is under strain, from access to food to access to healthcare. Long lines for basic necessities and overcrowded medical facilities are common sights. The blockade has exacerbated the humanitarian crisis. Aid organizations struggle to meet the overwhelming needs of the population. It is a key factor in the unfolding food crisis. Malnutrition rates are rising and food insecurity is a daily reality for many families. Amidst the ongoing crisis in Gaza, another layer of complexity exists: the accusations against Hamas, which have sparked intense debate and controversy. The Israeli government accuses the group of diverting humanitarian aid meant for the people of Gaza. They claim that funds and resources intended to alleviate the suffering of civilians are being funneled into Hamas's military operations, including the procurement of weapons and other military activities. Hamas, for its part, vehemently denies these allegations, asserting that they are committed to the welfare of the Palestinian people. They argue that the blockade imposed by Israel is the root cause of the humanitarian crisis, severely restricting the flow of goods and aid into Gaza. According to Hamas, the accusations are merely a smokescreen used by Israel to justify its actions and maintain the blockade. The truth, as always, is shrouded in the fog of war, making it difficult to discern the reality on the ground. This ongoing blame game has significantly hampered humanitarian efforts, making it challenging for aid to reach those in desperate need. The mutual distrust between the parties involved has eroded any semblance of cooperation, further complicating the situation. This lack of trust has made it exceedingly difficult to find a lasting solution to the conflict, with peace talks often ending in frustration. International organizations operating in Gaza face a daunting task, navigating the complex and dangerous environment to deliver aid. They must ensure that the aid reaches its intended recipients, often working under extremely challenging conditions. To address these challenges, they have implemented strict monitoring mechanisms to track the distribution of aid and prevent its diversion. Despite these efforts, the situation in Gaza remains precarious, with the ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis showing no signs of abating. Section 4. A world watching, the international response. The world is not silent. The crisis in Gaza has sparked international outrage and calls for action. The United Nations has issued urgent appeals for funding. They have urged Israel to ease the blockade. But the response has been slow and inadequate. Donor fatigue is a real issue. Competing crises around the world demand attention. The COVID-19 pandemic has strained resources. The international community must do more. The people of Gaza cannot be left to fend for themselves. The time for empty words is over. Concrete action is needed. The world must pressure Israel to lift the blockade. It must provide the necessary funding to support humanitarian efforts. It must work towards a lasting solution to the conflict. Section 5. Empty plates, empty stomachs, the human cost. Behind the statistics, behind the political rhetoric are real people. The human cost of this crisis is immeasurable. Families are struggling to survive, children are going to bed hungry. The lack of food has had a devastating impact on health. Malnutrition rates are soaring, hospitals are struggling to cope with the influx of patients. The psychological toll is immense. People are living in a constant state of stress and anxiety. They are losing hope. They are losing faith. The world must see the faces of the people of Gaza. It must hear their stories. It must understand the human cost of this crisis. Section 6. A call for action, breaking the cycle of suffering. The crisis in Gaza is a complex issue with no easy solutions. But one thing is clear, the status quo is unsustainable. The cycle of suffering must end. The international community must act now to prevent a full-blown famine. It must pressure Israel to lift the blockade. It must provide the necessary funding to support humanitarian efforts. The world must also work towards a lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This includes addressing the root causes of the conflict, such as the occupation and the settlements. The people of Gaza deserve better. They deserve to live in peace and dignity. They deserve to have enough food to eat. Section 7. Hope amidst despair, a glimmer in the darkness. The situation in Gaza is dire. But even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Hope that the international community will finally take meaningful action. Hope that the blockade will be lifted. Hope that the people of Gaza will one day be free from the grip of conflict and hunger. Hope that peace will prevail. The world cannot afford to give up on Gaza. It cannot turn a blind eye to the suffering of its people. It must act now to avert a catastrophe. The future of Gaza hangs in the balance. The world is watching.